remarks. Dr. Gangopadhyay, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh, and hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on where you are. Now, on behalf of International Road Federation India chapter, it is my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all of you in this 9th webinar. And you may perhaps recall that International Road Federation India chapter started the webinar series during the Road Safety Month in this year, in the month of January. Now, the purpose of the webinar series is twofold, actually. First, to disseminate the state-of-the-art knowledge on a broad subject like road safety. And the second is to formulate an action plan as a way forward for implementation in the country of some selected states. Now, we have planned 12 webinars, in fact, for the whole of this year. And today's webinar is the 9th in the series, titled Education and Campaign for Promoting Road Safety. Now, as we could see, we have very, well-known and eminent speakers, including the moderator. Today's moderator is none other than it is a well-known personality, Dr. Arun Mohan. The guest speaker will be Professor Prajapati Trivedi. He is the guest speaker. He is currently the distinguished professor at the Business School and Management Institute, MDI Gurgaon. Ms. Meenakshi Sahani, Principal Modern School, Vasant Vihar, New Delhi. Mrs. Parul Kumar, Founder and Vice President of Prabhav Foundation. Mr. Arun Lakshman, Consultant, Swarnlata Motherson Trust. And Professor P.K. Sikdar, who is the advisor of the International Road Federation India chapter and President ICT Private Limited. So as you could see that we have a very, enlightening evening ahead of us. And with this, may I now request Professor Sikdar to address us in place of Mr. Kapila, who is not actually having a lot of engagements and also slightly indisposed. So may I now request Professor Sikdar to give his address.
Thank you, Dr. Gangopadhyay. Good afternoon to all of you, my fellow participants of the webinar, as well as all the other participants attending this webinar. At the very outset, I'm reading a text that would have been told by Mr. Kapila, but I'm reading from his kind of speech in a way. At the outset, he would have liked to extend, and therefore I'm extending a warm welcome to Professor Prajapati Trivedi, who is currently the Commonwealth Secretary General Special Envoy for SDG implementation. And as it has been told already, he is distinguished professor at MDI Gurgaon. I also extend very warm welcome to Dr. Arun Mohan, very dear friend of Mr. Kapila, and he is the senior advocate practicing in Supreme Court of India presently, and known for his penchant for social needs and issues, and he has believed in creating awareness through his publications, and I'm sure his role as moderator is very, befitting in this kind of webinar. I would also like to warmly welcome to other distinguished speakers and member of the media, ladies and gentlemen. As we already know that 1.35 million people are killed and about 50 million people are injured world over in a year. This costs the world more than $6 billion every day. It's staggering kind of cost. In India, about 150,000 fatalities and 500,000 injuries, including some of them are for life. And this is what is reported every year. And the economic loss of these is 3 to 5% of our GDP. Which is a kind of staggering loss. Now, all the efforts, the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety, which was for last decade, 2011 to 20, could only create awareness about seriousness and concern of the road safety in the minds of all stakeholders. In terms of any noticeable reduction in the number of road accidents or fatalities, the effort has failed to produce any significant change. The main reason for this was considered that the efforts were not undertaken in a structured manner using the safe system approach. It was in a piecemeal approach. The IRF India chapter has embarked, as Dr. Gangopadhyay has mentioned, on a series of 12 webinars during this year, titled as Road Safety Challenges in India and Preparation for Action Plan. Now, India doesn't have a definite action plan till date, and that's why one of the confusion remains that what to do first. This series was launched on 9th February 2021 by none other than Sri Nitin Gadkari ji, Honorable Minister of Road Transport and Highways. Each webinar is covering 3 to 4 topics under the webinar theme. And from the current webinar, we would like to leverage and incorporate in the road safety action plan as to how the best education and campaign can be leveraged for promoting road safety. Besides the webinars of IRF India chapter, it has taken the ground level validation activities also in 7 states of Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, and Uttar Pradesh on selected road stretches, which are selected based on highest number of fatalities and injuries. Now, Honorable Minister has written to Chief Ministers of all these 7 states to help IRF India chapter in achieving their goal of demonstration safe corridors by following the safe systems approach. Our interventions has begun in various states, including the works envisaged to be undertaken, and these are related to getting the road audited and correcting all the engineering deficiencies, road safety education along the entire corridor so that people are aware of the level of safety or unsafe situation, what is existing for them, and road safety song has been prepared. A road safety song, often Mr. Kapila tries to tell it road safety anthem. And I would like to request the IT team to play this song for 1 minute. It is a Hindi version of this, but this has been prepared in all language of India. Please play.
सड़कों पे सावधानी पहली प्राथमिकता है, नियम का पालन करना है भैया, नहीं करनी है मनमानी, गुस्सा नहीं करना, मुस्कान फैलानी है। दाएं देखो बाएं देखो फिर दाएं देख के पार करो, पैदल सड़क पे जो हो हेडफोन न यूज करो, थोड़ी सी लापरवाही जीवन भर का है रोना, चौकन्ना रह कर ही चमकाओगे हर कोना, सड़कों पे सावधानी पहली प्राथमिकता है।
Sir, we plan to air this anthem consistently in All India Radio, FM channels, and also play in school prayers as well as other normal official functions in different parts of the country. Short films are also produced, which will be shown in the cinema halls. Police is being trained for better enforcement, and as well as training the first aid trauma care persons. I mean, some of the able-bodied people as bystanders who can help the accident victims, because our ambulance service system is not up to the mark yet, and therefore the bystanders need to be trained. The above initiatives are proposed to be undertaken with the assistance of corporates and road safety enthusiasts, except for actual corrections of the road. Engineering of the road will be done, improvements will be done by the states themselves, but we will show them what is required to be done. Road safety initiative for demonstration safe corridor projects in 7 states to validate that when you work on all the 5 E's, 5 E's, engineering of roads, engineering of vehicles, engineering of vehicles, education, enforcement, and emergency care, then road safety is bound to improve. Honorable Minister Sri Nitin Gadkari and Kapila jointly have pledged that this target of 50% reduction in road accident and fatalities can be done by 2025 itself, instead of additional 5 years up to 2030. So we are hoping that with this kind of experiments, we can show that we can do it better. Now, but to make it happen, Kapila humbly requests to all supporting people that it is a yug by sensitizing the friends and families about the adherence of road safety rules and sensitizing them how important it is to make sincere efforts to reduce accidents and fatalities, as well as by contributing generously to IRF India chapter. And the website of IRF India chapter is shown in the slides. You may go to this website and see whole lot of things that can be done, and also if you want to contribute, that is also provided. Thank you very much. But in the meantime, I would like to introduce our guest speaker today, Professor Prajapati Tripathi. As we have already said, that he is the Commonwealth Secretary General Special Envoy for SDG implementation, as well as he is the Distinguished Professor of MDI Gurgaon. Earlier, he worked as Senior Director in the Commonwealth Secretariat in London. He is a visiting faculty at the Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government, where he has taught various courses for last 40 years. Currently, a visiting international fellow at the IBM Center for the Business of Government, Washington, D.C., Professor Trivedi has served in several key positions in Government of India as well, including Secretary to the Government of India in the Cabinet Secretary, Prime Minister's Office, and a Chairman of National Authority Chemical Weapons Convention from 2009 to 2014, and Economic Advisor to the Government of India from 1992 to 1994. Professor Trivedi worked as a senior economist with the World Bank also from 1995 to 2009, and STC Chair Professor of Public Sector Management at the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, 1987 to 1992. He received MSc Economics from London School of Economics and also PhD from Boston University in 1985. Author of 5 books, he has worked in more than 50 countries around the world and elected Lifetime Fellow of the National Academy for Public Administration, USA. And he became the first Indian to receive the International Public Administration Award by American Society of Public Administration. He also was awarded the Harry Hatry Distinguished Performance Management Practice Award for 2019 in USA. With these words, I welcome Professor Trivedi again, and I hand over to Dr. Gangopadhyay again, please.
Thank you, Professor Sigdar. I think we heard you both the things that how the IRF India chapter will be proceeding and moving ahead, and also the such distinguished personality of Professor Prajapati Trivedi. It is really an honor to have all the speakers and Professor Prajapati and the moderator for today's program. Now, friends, we have two messages received. I would like the IT team to display the first one by Jan Turt, the President FIA and United Nations Secretary General Special Envoy, for his address. Will you display it, please?
Honorable Minister Nitin Gadkari, my dear Kiran Kapila, ladies and gentlemen, achieving safe mobility and transport systems is one of the most pressing social, economic, health and development challenges of our time. In countries where motorization is rapidly growing, like in India, some of the busiest roads are 20 times more dangerous than similar European ones. This is an enormous gap that we need to close urgently. There is added momentum for us to address this scourge. We embark on a new United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety, and we must all recommit to deliver on our 2030 targets. This aims to halve the number of road deaths and injuries, the SDG 3.6, and to provide access to safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport system for all by 2030, SDG 11.2. And with the progress made in the last decade and the tools we have gathered, we are equipped to make the difference. We have the UN Road Safety Conventions, a UN Road Safety Fund, global voluntary performance targets, and a global plan of action underway. I thank the International Road Federation for playing its significant part in this global effort. I commend your work in supporting stakeholders to improve roads, which ultimately benefit local communities, including children, who are, as we all know, among the most vulnerable. I wish you a productive webinar and look forward to a fruitful journey, rewarded by lives saved on the road, and you know you can count on me. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request our IT team to display and play these messages received from Mr. Bill Alkis, President, International Road Federation, Geneva, please.
Honorable Minister of Road Transport and Highways and MSMEs, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, esteemed dignitaries, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the International Road Federation, a very warm welcome to all. I thank each and every one of you for joining us today in these very difficult and complicated times. The COVID-19 pandemic is having extensive ramifications to the entire planet. But apart from the COVID-19 pandemic, there is another pandemic that has been claiming lives and affecting healthcare, business and jobs for years, the road traffic accident pandemic. According to the World Health Organization, road traffic accidents were responsible for an estimated 1,350,000 deaths worldwide in 2016, out of which 150,000 or 11% in India alone. Neither death toll is acceptable. What is worse is that road traffic crashes are completely preventable, and there is a lot that can be done to ensure that they are reduced globally. No government, no citizen, none of us should have to compromise on the safety of his family. Our collective task should be to create a truly safe, sustainable, and efficient multimodal transportation system. To finally defeat the road traffic accident pandemic, we need to work in true partnership, public and private, industry and civil society, and we need to create the conditions to do so. Last but not least, we should not forget about our human capital. We must invest in capacity building. We can adequately respond to challenges only if we have skilled personnel. On behalf of the International Road Federation, I would like to invite each and every one of you to engage with the IRF to shape a better road and transport sector and a better future for all. I would like to praise and thank India, its government and its institutions for their bold initiatives in promoting road traffic safety. And I will say to the Honorable Minister, to the President of the India chapter of IRF, Dr. Gangopadhyay, and to my good friend President Emeritus of IRF Geneva, Mr. Kiran Kapila, keep up the good work. And to all of you in India and elsewhere, please follow their example. We are all united for road safety, because united we rise and united we deliver. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. I think now it is time for all of us to move to the technical session. And it is my pleasant duty, I guess, to introduce first our moderator, Dr. Arun Mohan, the Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Dr. Arun Mohan is a senior advocate practicing in New Delhi for over 50 years. And after 30 years of trial practice before the Delhi High Court in 2000, he shifted his focus to lower court to lower cost and speedy justice and other social needs and issues. In 2009, he published Justice Courts and Delays. In 2014, he published a 714-page work titled Road Accidents Prevention, Attention and Prevention. These, amongst others, he put forward an inversion of a US $100 attachment stretcher for use on auto rickshaws and other locally available vehicles as a makeshift ambulance to transport from the accident spot to the trauma center. Till sufficient number of proper ambulances were available. Now, Dr. Arun Mohan has been regularly lecturing in judicial academies and also at other fora on a wide variety of issues, including the road safety. So with this such a background, it is our pleasure to have Dr. Arun Mohan as a moderator for today's technical session. Now I hand over the technical session to Dr. Arun Mohan. Thank you.
Namaskar to all the
Namaskar.
panelists, participants, and others who are attending this webinar. It is indeed an honor to be here moderating this seminar, and more so for two reasons. A, the goal and the purpose behind this, and B, the learned participants who will make really a success of the mission with their thoughts. We have the panelists who have been introduced earlier, and I would need not repeat. I would rather reserve that time to hear Professor Trivedi. And with that very short introduction, which is reiteration, I would request Professor Trivedi to give his views to all of us. Over to Professor Trivedi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohan, and also Dr. Gangopadhyay and Dr. Sikdar. It is indeed a great pleasure. I am absolutely mesmerized to be among the believers, and I know Dr. Kapila for many years. When I was in the government, I've known him, and it's just inspirational to see the dedication to this cause, and I see the same dedication in amongst all of you and the speakers that we followed. Well, I am here today. Indeed, in 2024, I would have taught for 50 years, so I'm behind Dr. Mohan in terms of my experience. He's already practiced for 50 years. But I started teaching in St. Stephen's College in University of Delhi in 1974. And since then till today, I remain a teacher. I've done many things, but they were all side trekking trips to the World Bank, to the government, to Commonwealth Secretariat, my dedication remains to teaching and education. I remain, and that's my first love. And I guess that is the reason I am here today, because this is the topic is today's education and campaign for promoting road safety. But if you allow, I will to organize, because time is limited. I was given 15 minutes. With your permission, Dr. Mohan, I will share a short PowerPoint because it's easy to follow what I'm saying if we have the PowerPoint in front of us. And then, of course, I'll be happy to share it with you and have question answers during this session and beyond. So this is the beginning of the dialogue, not the end of the dialogue. So if I may share my PowerPoint with your permission, and then we can you see that right now on the screen?
Yes. Yes, please.
Great. Great.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm going to talk about the topic, but as you see, this is really an SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. In fact, as the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy said, it is 3.6. That is the target for that, halving the number of road deaths. So I am currently, one of the hats that I wear is I am the Special Envoy for the Commonwealth Secretary General, and my task is to focus on SDG implementation. And I believe the debate on its importance is over. Now it's only time for implementation. That's how I come in, and that's really has been my focus. And I will try to share with you my experience about not only implementation of 3.6, which is road safety, but other SDGs. I say with great love, affection, and great respect that in this gathering, we might think that road safety is important, and indeed it's important. I mean, I know Dr. Kapla tells me how many jumbo jets are falling from the sky as a result of road safety. It is equal to many, many plane loads of fatalities. So let's not belittle that. But at the same time, as you know, we have UN General Assembly going on right now in New York. And yesterday I was speaking on a side event on violence against women. Now that was such a group, and there's such a powerful issue. And then there is climate. And again, very important. So the point I'm making is all these issues are important. It's not one at the cost of other. So issues have been identified. All the countries have signed up to it. It is time for implementation. It's not time for debating. And I will share what I have found as someone who has made this as my cause to focus on implementation. As a development economist, I came to the conclusion that the competitive and comparative advantage of nations is not determined by the resources, but their ability to convert ideas into action. In this day and age, we all have the information. You Google and you will find everything. There is no surprise anymore. But try implementing that. So the challenge and the singular challenge for us is not to generate new ideas, but to also focus on implementation. And I'll share with you what I've been trying to do in terms of implementation. Allow me just to clarify why this is an important issue, because road safety is a public good, which economists define and separate it from private good. Private goods are those which the market can supply. The demand and supply can supply. Public goods are those where markets do not work because the benefit and the cost are not contained or not limited to the individual, just to put it simply. So road safety is clearly a public good. It has what economists call externalities, that consequences beyond yourself. The way you drive, you kill people. So it's not the harm that you do to yourself, but to the society. And therefore, free market fails to deliver it. If it could, then we would not have this problem. It is no one's business. It becomes a public good. Public good, to deliver public good like road safety requires collective action. And that is the logic of collective action. It can't be done by individuals. It can't be done by market. This collective action includes action by non-government organizations like the IRF. Certainly, it has a great role to play. It is also private citizens and private organizations, as you will find many distinguished panelists on in this webinar will share with you what is being done in education, not necessarily in public education, but private education and otherwise. So it definitely is. But the bottom line is, no matter how much education, how much information you give, the action, the vision can only be converted into results by government and government action. And, you know, I don't want to pass the buck to government because it is our government. It is not someone else's government. We tend to think it's something else. And I will tell you my ideas as having worked with governments, currently working in Commonwealth with 54 governments on this issue. So there is an action plan. Many of you would have seen it. I have seen it, but I've more importantly seen the YouTube video on that. So I have a better idea. It's better than reading it. It came alive and I had Dr. Kapila explain the whole thing. So I suggest if those who have not seen it to see it. As I think Dr. Mohan implied, that it is perhaps a work in progress. It's not finalized, and this seminar, this webinar will contribute to ideas to this action plan. But there is an action plan. There are quite a few action plans. Even SDG, the United Nations, has a road safety action plan and a strategy. So in my view, the crisis of road safety is not about ideas, but about implementation. We have so many ideas that we should put a moratorium on generating new ideas and say, please implement some of the ideas that we have already generated for the last so many years. And, you know, the 2030 goals were decided in 2015, and it's really more than half. We have reached the midway point, and we need to seriously focus on implementation, not keep generating ideas. There is a time to generate ideas and there's time for implementation. So I am in the camp which says this is the time for implementation. In my humble view, having worked in large number of countries and working still with the governments, I believe that the countries in the world can be divided in two categories. Some countries make promises but deliver very little. The gap between their promise, the rhetoric, and action is very wide. And in other countries, the gap between their promise and delivery is narrow. And it's no one's guess. There's no prize for it for guessing that which group of countries develops faster. The countries where the gap between promise and delivery is very little or narrow tend to develop faster. And therefore, our goal should be, we do have the vision, we do have the action, we do have the ideas. What can we do to implement them? The other thing that you would notice that effective governments implement all policies effectively. It's not they pick up and they are very partial to one policy or the other. If you find that health policies or education policies are not being implemented, that's a sign of general problem with implementation in the government. It's like investment. You know, if you have a good investment climate, it's good for all kinds of investment. It does not focus on any one kind of investment. You know, the Doing Business survey by the World Bank, which looks at the quality of investment climate in a country, says this climate is good for all businesses. Similarly, there is an implementation climate, which is the responsibility of the government. If the implementation climate is good, it's good for all kinds of implementation, whether it is in health, education, gender violence, inequality, poverty, it cuts across. So when you see that things are not being implemented, it is usually that there is lethargy in the government in implementation, and you should not feel bad that only your sector is being ignored. And therefore, we as citizens and active participants in this debate should also focus on the implementation climate and not just a specific issue, which is very important. No one could be, I mean, I'm not trying to take away from the importance, but for us to get the road safety done, we will have to really ensure that the implementation climate improves so that everything gets implemented, and then road safety too will get implemented. So I would like to now just summarize some of my findings and happy to answer questions. I don't want to belabor, this is not a large lecture, but I just summarized, and this is very well written up, and you know, we worked on each one of those. The first lesson is you've got to have clarity of goals. I'm not sure what is India's target and as far as reducing road safety is concerned and who is held accountable. Clarity of goals, that what exactly do we mean by road safety? How is the country measuring road safety, and are we announcing that are we better off? Like GDP is our focus. We measure it and we know how it is measured, and there's no doubt about it because there are several checks and balances. It's very, very difficult to fudge, but of course, human ingenuity knows no bound and we are able to even fudge that. But at least we rely on GDP and inflation data, and therefore we can make policies and we know whether we are doing well or not. Similarly, we need clarity of goals and objectives precisely, and it should be agreed, and we should announce every year that what have you made progress or not. Along with the GDP, we should also announce, because as I think it was pointed out by Professor Sikdar that, you know, it affects GDP. We must measure it. I mean, you know, there should be in every, and there's huge scope. We don't have good measures. There are no systems for that. So what gets measured gets done. If you don't measure, it will not get done. So we must back it up, not just have a goal, but we must have a full system for reliable measurement. Transparency of data in operation, precisely who is measuring, how it is being measured. It should be audited. It should be rock solid. It should not be that the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. It should be absolutely reliable, not an estimate. And there should be an explicit and unambiguous assignment of accountability. My problem is who is responsible for road safety? You know, if you speak with the minister, he'll say, oh, of course, it's not my responsibility, it's society, this, that. But there has to be one captain in the whole game. It can't be that everyone is a captain and everybody is doing it. And if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen. So explicit. And I have found through, you know, and I'm not saying this is not my theoretical research. I'm happy to share. And this is my source of bread and butter, that I help governments implement good policies and focus on implementation. And I have found that unless you can't just simply say, the malaria program did not work. Programs don't work or not work. It is the person who's behind. You must know who was responsible for the failure in the malaria program. Similarly, in the road safety program, do we have one person we can hold accountable for this, or everybody is saying not me syndrome, passing the buck to someone else and saying the whole of society is responsible and hence no one is responsible. So this is a very important part. Why can't we have a special we have special advisors, specialists, special envoys. Let the government of India appoint somebody who we can hold accountable, who's the captain of the ship, who puts everything together and is therefore accountable at the end and presents the report. 5, my experience is these things don't happen unless you hold the top accountable. Accountability for results trickles down. If you start and hold children accountable for road safety, etc., this will not. It must be at the very top. Someone must be held accountable, and then it will trickle down. Accountability never trickles up. And so the accountability for road safety has to be at the very top, and then it will begin to trickle down. The reason it doesn't trickle down because there is no one accountable at the very top. And so therefore this we have to focus on. The lesson number 6 that I have found to be true is no matter what happens, there have to be incentives to perform. We human beings, and I don't speak like an economist, we human beings are driven by consequences. If there are no consequences, people don't care. If the road safety, the fatalities increase or decrease, but it's just a number somebody announces or some researcher does it, there are no consequences, then it will not, the results will not be there. So it's common sense, you don't need, but it is true, I have found it over and over again. By the way, my remit in the government when I was Secretary to Government of India was to really look at the performance of all 80 departments and report to the Prime Minister. So I can say this with confidence that incentives matter. And the 6th and the 7th Pay Commission have have been irritated, I would say, in demanding that why has the government not implemented performance-related incentive scheme? And then we blame that people don't work because there are no consequences for good or bad work in government. So, but I don't want to get sidetracked, but it is very important, and I don't think it's such a difficult point. Communication. This is what we are doing now. This is what IRF does. That's what the India chapter does very well. You have communicated, and I salute you, and I know Dr. Kapila has been at it. I've seen him in international fora as well, his commitment, and he communicates it beautifully. I mean, at least he convinced me long time back. But communication is important. Then again, the whole of government approach. If you look at the action plan, it is many ministries have to work together. It's most things in government are a team sport. There's no solo performance in government. And I can give you example after example, just to give you one example away from this, because you know more than I do on road safety. Electricity, a real example, the Prime Minister at one point decided in the previous government to increase the production of electricity. And then this whole thing came out that to produce electricity in India, 5 ministries are involved. The coal has to produce coal, railways has to deliver the coal to the plants. Those plants were mostly made and maintained by BHEL, which is the public enterprise under the Controller Department of Heavy Industry. The Ministry of Environment has to be part of the team, otherwise they can throw a monkey's spanner in the works and delay the whole thing. And then the Ministry of Electricity itself and Energy was responsible. But you do need a whole of government approach, and the answers are all there. Believe me, none of these things I'm saying in a speculative manner. People have figured out the answers. There are toolkits, and that's what the Commonwealth Secretariat, we have developed toolkits for each one of these so that people don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Finally, we have to move away from people-oriented, personalized policy approach that there is this white knight on a horse who comes and saves the day type of approach. You know, whether we like it or not, this is really what the research tells us, that the results in any organization or any enterprise depend 80% on systems and 20% on people. That's not me. All management gurus have a consensus. It starts from Peter Drucker downwards, that to improve any organization, you must focus on systems because you'll get 80% of the results. People only matter 20%, and we know that. I mean, you know, in India particularly, we know that same Indian who is not doing well in India goes out and does exceedingly well because in a system, in a different system, they do so well. Come back to India and they don't do well again because it's the system, and we have to be very careful. Well, in the people category, the research shows that 80% of the results are determined by leader within the 20%. So the rest of the people really do matter, but if you have a good system and a great leader, you can do miracles. Again, we don't have to look very far. We have had wonderful Ashoka the Great, Alexander the Great. They were great leaders with great systems, and the rank and file rose up to the occasion and conquered the world for them. Miracles can happen. But we must focus on system. It can't be just one leader who's just, you know, while the person is there by the force of his personality or her personality gets things done, and the minute she leaves, everything goes back to square one. That's not a desirable situation. So my request and would be, please join your hands in creating a movement to improve systems in our country, institutions. I mean, on the cutting edge, development economists have agreed that ultimately it is the strength of the institutions which is the main determinant of development. Otherwise, if it was resources, very rich, resource-rich countries would be ahead and Singapore would not be, and other smaller countries, Ireland, New Zealand, would not be. They are not resource rich, but they are far ahead of most of the world, including Taiwan. So therefore, we need to start thinking differently. And I ask you to join us, the Commonwealth Secretariat, and join this forum if you need further. We are trying to have generally accepted performance principles so that whether it's road safety or violence against women or climate action, etc., we can apply certain generally accepted performance principles and say that you're not up to the mark. We know, we can predict that your systems are poor, you're not doing the right things to ensure implementation. You're talking a lot, you're talking the talk, but not walking the talk, and therefore there's a difference. So I invite you, please write to me. This is my email, and we can continue this debate. Unfortunately, today we don't have all the time. This is all the time that I was given, and I am grateful to Dr. Mohan, to Dr. Kapila, Dr. Gangopadhyay, and Dr. Sikdar for bearing with me. And thank you, Dr. Mohan. I pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Professor, for a wonderful address and the way you have encapsulated what is the need today must be admired. And that is one. But then I go one step further and add my appeal for implementation. More is for all of us to do. Ultimately, it is the analysis that you have given that must be implemented. So with that, I say thank you. I think question answer, would you like it now for yourself or later?
Yes. And I'm open to it.
Okay.
I'm in your hands. Complete.
No, the convenience is there. So what I'll now request, any questions which have to be asked of Professor Trivedi may kindly be put up, and we'll request Professor Trivedi to answer that. Yes.
I have a suggestion, Dr. Mohan. If it is possible, it is agreeable to all the panelists. Can we have the Q&A session at the end of all the speakers speak?
I think that would be better, and especially in a webinar, especially in the judicial webinars, I have found that sometimes during the period, what is a question at this time may be answered by another speaker a little later. So let them have it at the end. I would agree with that.
Yeah, that will.
Okay.
I agree too.
Thank you.
So with that, we proceed now to, well, I'll say proceed to myself as per the schedule to introduce the speakers, but that has already been carried out. And we have this, the next speaker would be Mrs. Parul Kumar, who is the founder and vice president of the Prabhav Foundation. And I think I've had an occasion of hearing her earlier at one occasion also, but but be that as it may, we look forward with her experience and her penchant for the subject to her views straight. Her views matter more than my reading out the bio. Over to Mrs. Parul Kumar. Yes. Yes. Is she there, please? Over to Mrs. Parul Kumar. May I request her to switch on?
Mrs. Parul Kumar is not there.
So then what I'll do is we'll proceed to the next speaker, and as we say in courts, we pass over and we'll take it up later. Okay.
She will get back.
Yes. So may I now request my namesake, Mr. Arun Lakshman. May I request the technical team to put up his bio on the screen, so I'll keep it short. The rest is there. I can see him on the screen, but his bio, yes. Well, that is our Mr. Arun Lakshman, who's consulting for the Swaran Lata Mother Son Trust. And let us now over to him to have his views on the,
Good evening.
please.
I have a very small presentation to share, but I have a very, very high regard for Mr. Trivedi. He has already put up some very good points, but you will find within my presentation also. Just give me a second because I need to share my screen.
And I hope the technical team is recording all this for availability later, because such ideas sometimes need a rehear or a review on the screen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think it is being recorded. If I
Good.
I'm not.
Because at the moment I'm not able to. Am I able to share my screen, please?
Not yet. We are not able to see your screen yet. Please share it.
It takes little bit of time lag. Yeah.
Yeah, it is there.
Time lag.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Are you
has
able to
come
see?
now.
yes, it's visible now, readable.
Yes. So my topic
Yes,
was
it has
actually
come.
on education. However, in road safety scenario, education has to go hand in hand with other things also. So during my presentation, I am trying to cover up small things because you cannot cover the whole topic in one go. And I will try to finish my presentation within 15 minutes. Then after that, 3 minutes left for all further queries. That's why I said it is not education, it is road safety in ecosystem. And at the moment, I am project head for a Center for Excellence, which we are planning through Swarnlata Motherson Trust. A picture speaks 1,000 words. Therefore, for better understanding, I have used photographs either taken by me or received through various resources. So it is because I'm using their photographs, I'm thankful for them also. Let me first try to visualize what our general environment is in India. We have to look at both sides while crossing a one-way road, and people feel pride in violating law. Second, we do nonsense things. Even educated people do the same. And in such a scenario, only education, we will not be able to do much improvement. So my presentation is divided into 4 parts: road safety requirements, safety habits, knowledge points, and countermeasures suggested. These countermeasures, I've been talking for the last 7-8 years. Of course, they are very out of order, out of brain. They're just tangent, but it makes sense because of considering other countries. So let me start with road safety requirement first. 4.5 lakh road accidents annually in India, and majority are because of driver's fault, which is 80%. And if we really want to reduce fatalities, we have to reduce accidents. We have to prevent accidents rather. So for driver and vehicle improvement, the actions are required at root level, where driver skill and vehicle fitness in all aspects is supposed to be ensured. So, in my opinion, if you have sincere enforcement like Singapore is implemented in India, at least in Delhi, 80% license can be cancelled on the first day, and balance 40% vehicle can go off the road. I can't say for the second day. These are the faults or violations what we commit on day-to-day basis. Education is key. I agree on this. But if you see my first 2 situations, there has to be involvement of enforcement agencies to support education and to make people away from making faults. So I'm trying to see a synchronized approach. I am not talking about challan system, please note. And there is a knowledge matrix available. When a learner starts, the knowledge level is very less, like total area in red zone. As it goes higher and higher, the knowledge increases. However, when you are at the top, still there is a scope for knowing more. So in the whole system, what Mr. Trivedi was talking, the accountability should be from top to bottom. So in road safety, there are two basic laws defined in. One is Rule 15, that is driving test, means driving skill, and Rule 62, which handles vehicle fitness. Because vehicle fitness also plays a very important role in road safety to prevent accidents. And to implement both the things, the responsibility lies with the transport department. And traffic police, I suggest, should be a supportive agency. When I talk about Rule 15, it has got driving skill. However, there are other traits also are required, like use of fit vehicle in efficient way. If you cannot engage gear at proper time, you will never get power and efficiency. You have to follow law. And road infrastructure, you don't have to see other things, you have to save that. You have to use it safely. And when I talk about Rule 62, it is emission, it is headlights, it is suspension, steering, brake, and visual inspection. Why I am taking these 5 points for education? Because all these things play a very important role in road safety. In my further slides, you will find a relevance of all these things vis-a-vis driving. So what is to be covered during driving training is very well defined in Rule 31 by CMVR. However, the situation is that driving training is not mandatory by law for private vehicles, two-wheelers and LMV. And with LMV private license, one can drive small commercial vehicles. So drivers do not go through a formal education. Their level of understanding you can understand now. And knowledge test at the time of license issuance is just a formality. 10 questions, 6 for the signages and nothing other than. So let me start my presentation. There are 4 points: road safety requirements, safety habits, knowledge points, and countermeasures suggested to close the loop. So safety habits. See, this is our environment. At any kind of bus stand, if there are 10 people standing and one starts standing on the road, all 9 will come to the stand on the road. Now, in this scenario, there are 4 lanes and they are occupying 2.5 lanes. You please imagine where the driver will stop the bus, and once he stops the bus in last lane, there's going to be a traffic problem. Behavior is towards safety. They all are educated. However, for safety, they try to have any kind of shortcut available near to them. As per the picture, you can even see people running in front of the vehicle. These are pictures taken by me. And in this, you can see the situation. A conductor is actually welcoming or stopping people. But why? This is a scenario. Knowing but not taking countermeasure. Let me go to the next level. Major points. Evaluate environment. I told you in my earlier slide the 5 points. So I'll start with emission. You can see this photograph. Now the person driving this vehicle or a driver using his or her own vehicle, they are supposed to know the cause and after effects of such pollution. Their vehicle can give low mileage, low power, and once it is low power, it can stall abruptly, which is dangerous to the situation. All these things are actually controlled electronically, but unfortunately, the situation persists. Let us see high beam. These are the headlights which I have taken a picture from the net. You can understand if you use the standard lamps and change them to the unstandard format high wattage lamps. What is the source of glare? It is going to blind the other person. And even if the standard lights are not aligned, the frontal vision will never be okay. Or it will again give glare to somebody else. And you will not be able to see road at all if it is not aligned. And my next slide, you will be surprised to see in Delhi, at least I have seen people are night blind. They switch on 100% lights on their vehicle in front and then drive. They do not consider others at all. So they cannot use the equipment properly and they are not aware that how much light is okay for their eyes to see on the road. Let me come to a simple example of suspension and brake, and you will be surprised to see this photograph. I do not know how the suspension and steering can be saved with this kind of situation. And in case of emergency, will driver be able to stop the vehicle? Unfortunately, if the vehicle overturns or unfortunately the people fell from this bus, is resulting injuries, fatalities, who will be responsible for that? These things are on road. All enforcement agencies are watching these. Extra greed. I do not know how this gentleman will be able to save load from falling. This is not knowing the own efforts, whether they are useful or not. I'll come to the last one, which is very important. We all travel by auto, we all travel by bus, we all have used all this form of transportation, but as per law, there has to be a rear view, but in this it is blocked. These kind of attachments are fitted by autos, and please understand, these are not to damage their own vehicle. These are damage to other vehicles. Is it allowed? You can see light is missing. Finally, every part of the body is damaged. What this vehicle is going to lose if it hit other vehicle? Another situation. Now this vehicle has got bars fitted in front and rear, and it is driving on rightmost side, the overtaking lane, blocking traffic. In these two, everything is damaged from the rear side. So these are the part of Rule 62, where fitness has got very critical role for external appearance. These kind of damages means they have definitely hit other vehicle. Now coming to the law, black film is not allowed as per the law, but people use it. Now covering critical parts like headlight, even tail lights. These are hazards to the vehicle which is following them. Light will not be able to see the light in case of any emergency. Let's see more examples. Well, do not give any critical thinking which light to be used. Now, little rain, little fog, they switch on hazard. I have seen even enforcement agencies doing so. They do not know that hazard lights are to be used in which condition. It is only a hazard condition. Even if they are switching it on, they do not know whether it is visible from a distance, because red light has got more frequency, is visible from the more distance. And there is nobody to stop them also. The second thing, people change lane just by giving indicator. I just want to clarify over here, giving indicator is just an intention. And they are not bothered about any traffic on lane beside them or lane in which they are going. So it is not their right to change the lane despite turn signal is given. And in case of our conditions, any space in front and side of my vehicle belongs to me and it is my lane. That's the thinking. We need to change. You can see this. This is the actual photograph. The vehicle where I have marked red arrow, they all are going in other lane. So this has created a jam. In Delhi, at least in Delhi, the maybe more than 50% jams take place because of such conditions. Unfortunately, when traffic police start easing out the traffic, these are the people, those who are benefited the most. Because until unless you don't remove them, other traffic cannot move, which is going in a different direction. So attitude is leading to this behavior. they are not carrying hazards and no one is stopping. So enforcement is needed despite education. Let me suggest some countermeasures. They are out of box, but they will work. First of all, we need automatic system for testing, which ministry has already taken a step, and in a lot of states, this is done electronically, where accuracy of checking is very high and they keep all records. However, this is the thing which is mandatorily to be implemented in India, a perfect driving test under Rule 15, and this is the only long-term alternative. When I make a graph, you start with enforcement peak, but reduce it. However, psychological enforcement is required. You go in any country, you will find cameras are there. Physical enforcement is not there. Similarly, for education, it has to go up in magnitude, and we have to give due credit to education for long-term goals. If road safety is the mission, then we have to stop any damaged vehicle to be allowed to ply on road. There are certain reasons. I give you a basic psychological reason. When we wear clean clothes in the morning, we wait for the first dot on our cloth, and after that we are free to do anything with those clothes. Similarly, here also people wait for the first dent or first scratch. It should be implemented irrespective of category. No damaged vehicle should be allowed to ply on road. And repair should not be with brush. It should be a proper repair by the dealer, by the authorized dealer, or a good shop where output is as good as new. And due to high cost, people will try to avoid accidents. They will not damage other vehicles. Certainly, it will lead to less number of accidents and certainly fatalities, and create transparent process focusing road safety. And this is a very, very critical thing for traffic management. The police start controlling traffic lights manually, and it results further increase in traffic jam. It's a very scientific science to decide how much time is to be given for what. And I feel it should be given, this task to be given to some experts like CRRI or CSIR to study and give this. They are the experts. And then lastly, I wish you a safe travel from home to home. Thank you very much for listening me. Thank you.
Thank you, Arunji, for your nice presentation, or rather, I would call it a good survey of what are the ground realities existing. These ground realities have to be first, as you have very rightly explained, converted into a sense of responsibility on part of each one of us. That what is the ground reality of today as outlined by you slowly diminishes and road safety increases. Thank you for your presentation. That was nice. And now we proceed to request. In the meantime, has Parulji come or she is still? Okay, we'll.
Not joined.
Parulji has joined?
Not as yet, sir.
Okay, then we'll pass over again. And I would request Meenakshi ji, whose bio appears on the screen. She is now, in fact, she is the most important person because she's looking after the modern school, because school is the age when the real road safety has to be inculcated. It's much easier and it is permanent. What I can say, I was at school some 65 years back, Delhi Public School, and what my teachers taught me, I still remember some of those teachings remain with me in life to my benefit. And what I missed out, I still miss out today. So we'll have Meenakshi ji tell us now about educating the children for road safety. Over to Meenakshi ji.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan, and a big thank you to all of you, Dr. Gangopadhyay and Mr. Kapila, who's not here and is a grandparent to a child from our school with whom I've had a great association, and of course, all the esteemed speakers. Thank you for giving us the honor and considering us important stakeholders in this entire picture. It is, of course, coming from the school's point of view, the points that we might have to contribute to the whole process would seem rather insignificant. But I would say that when it comes to the desert, a grain is the sand and the sand is the grain. So keeping that in view, I would like to make some, just put forward some thoughts. However, I would like to also here say that my thoughts are primarily driven by the fact that I've been in education in some form or the other for the last 3 decades and happen to have a recent interest in neurosciences and how neuroplasticity can be, used to harness human potential. So my thoughts are an amalgamation of these approaches. It is indeed really sad to look at the numbers in terms of the deaths that we have been talking about, which it seems appear those caused by the pandemic on a day-to-day basis in our country. And the numbers that I read today touch as high as 415 a day losing to accidents, which is, of course, forget the GDP, but loss of lives to family and sometimes earning members a lot of the times. Now, when this, the whole idea, and when I was asked to speak over here, I really, I decided to take it up with my teachers to get their viewpoint on the matter. And when I suggested this, people on the road, and I said, dive into the minds of the people who are on the road. The first thought or the first suggestion that came to the table was, they said, ma'am, everybody who's there on the road has a purpose. And come to think of it, yes, roads are the neural the networks on the planet, and they have been made for a purpose, and the people who take to the roads, they do so with a purpose in mind, which is to fulfill social, emotional, and physical requirements. And let us not forget that, because that's the primary purpose. Now, aside or besides the purpose, there is something else that drives the driver on the road, and that is his upbringing and education. And that is where we educators come into the picture. So when I think of education, I am not sure if everybody over here has heard the story of the elephant and the 6 blind men. Have we?
Yeah.
Yes. So for the benefit of those who've never heard it, that there were these 6 learned men who were blind and who were taken to the elephant to know for themselves what an elephant looks like. So they touched different parts of the elephant. One touched the trunk, another one touched and thought it was a big heavy rope. Another one touched the tusks and thought they were spears. Another one touched the ears and thought that they were fans. And someone touched the big back and thought it was a wall, etc., etc. Now, in short, they all described and later argued the elephant to be what the whole picture was for them. Now, that picture or the slice of the elephant that they had seen for themselves was not the elephant as it was. So now come back to the man on the road who has to go from point A to B. For him, his picture is the slice of life that he or she represents. So there is a cyclist on the road, there is a tempo wala on the road, there is a truck on the road, and there is say a merc on the road. Now a cyclist's behavior on the road reflects his upbringing, his education, his struggle and strife in life. And of course, he has a purpose too. He has to get somewhere, as does a tempo wala, for whom it is different. And he will find his way differently, but surely, and as does somebody who is more privileged and will think that the road is his oyster and he has all rights to it. Now, here is where education has to come in. There is a gap indeed. And if we are to, in schools, wait for the next 10 years for education to fulfill that gap, we can keep waiting for eternity. It's not going to happen. So what we really need to focus here is that, as the esteemed speakers earlier, Professor Prajapati also said, that there is a lot that has to go into implementation. And when it comes to implementation of safety on the roads, it has to be a multi-pronged approach if we really want to combat this issue and to take care of it over the time period that we have given to ourselves. The 5 E's that you have been speaking about are a fantastic thought. However, they have to be, education and enforcement will have to work hand in hand. Now, education of school children, of course, is a long-term plan. It has to start from childhood. And let us look at it another way. We can use our young children, even though they are not driving age, we can use these young children to be our policemen, to create a new task force that can check adults who are not resorting to the right behavior. So because we can theoretically, we can equip them to support the adults who are driving, because a teacher's word, I'm sure you'll all agree, goes very deep and very, very far. And if we say something to a grade 2 child or a grade 1 child, they make sure that the parents are following what is being taught to them. And of course, the other part is industry and policy makers who have to do their bit. Now, when I talk of industry, and my thoughts are random, they don't follow a certain pattern. I did not know we could put up PowerPoint presentations, so I don't have any. But when it comes to industry, even a cigarette packet, if you all know, says smoking is injurious to health. But I've never seen any vehicle console display saying you are speeding at your own risk, or any vehicle saying, you know, you are speeding and you are endangering other lives on the road. If you're lucky to find or spot such a sign, maybe you will read it or maybe you will not. But why can these things not be a mandate? And why can they not be built into the systems which are being used and abused? The other thing that comes to my mind is, of course, even education, how we impart to children today is not the same as we did many, many years ago, where we followed the policy of spare the stick and, spoil the child. Nobody today, the world, and we know it better than ever before, that you cannot use the rod always to teach people. And Professor Prajapati's point where he said incentivization in some way. Now, incentives, of course, in such a large arena cannot work. However, the other thought that has come to my mind with the pandemic is that mindfulness is something that has now, taken the world by storm. We are becoming more mindful of how we live, what kinds of lives we are leading, what we are eating, doing, etc. Now, can we use an approach towards mindfulness when we put our traffic laws in regulations in place? Can our red light, along with saying stop, say breathe? I mean, it's a very easy thing to do. Or the traffic light at green says go, but be mindful of who you meet along the way. Or our give way signs say, be responsible for how you treat others whom you meet along the way. It's about integrating values, integrating mindfulness into road behavior. And these are things which can be taught at a young age. These are things that can be brought in through engineering, modifications, whether it's road designs or signage or vehicles. And the other thing is, I go back to the people on the road. It was of course heartrending to see the pictures, but those are the reality where people are piling on to each other. That's the reality of Indian roads. But then we also have to accept the fact that we do not have an inclusive approach when it comes to designing a road. A road is made. Yes, it is something that you have available to you to go from point A to B. But is this road catering to different kinds of needs? Is this road catering to a cyclist? Is this road catering to a two-wheeler? There are no lanes. So while we talk of inclusivity in all other walks of life, is inclusivity being built into the creation of our infrastructure, which is futuristic? We create, ramps, etc., even in school to take care of our children. But when it comes to social divides in society, are we catering to those who cannot have big vehicles so that they can, roughshod or move ahead with speed? So we cannot remain warped in the desire to, achieve outcomes and large goals without realizing that there's more to life. There are emotions, there are needs attached, and unless and until systems contribute or cater to those needs and emotions, things will not work out. And more importantly, it's needs. It's needs because roads are attached to livelihoods, not necessarily speed. I will rest my case over here, but just before that, I would like to give a few points in a random order, and some of these things can be very easily can be implemented. One thing that can be done with regards to school education is that we can, of course, make it a compulsory part of school curriculum, and with the NEP or the new education policy, which is so heavily focused on life skills, this should become a mandate middle school upwards, at least, if not before. Values, of course, have to be integrated at a much earlier age. And when children pass out of school, they are typically about 18 years old. And for them to furnish a license within 2 months of passing school or something is something that can be put into place as a compulsory thing, because willy-nilly we have all the people today, whether it's girls or boys, who take to driving after they passed out school or maybe even before that. The other thing is, of course, partnership with stakeholders here. This is we need to rope in the children, we need to rope in the parents and all possible stakeholders from society, partnerships with the traffic police. This happens, by the way, in schools, but it is not a mandate. So, we spend our precious time teaching physics and chemistry and biology and maybe sometimes history, which children sometimes don't have interest in or don't understand. But the real life skills, such as health, when we're talking of sustainable goals and etc., health, maybe behavior, a citizenship curriculum is something that is grossly but sadly missing from our syllabus. And that is something I feel is the need of the hour. I have always been interested in creating a citizenship curriculum, which should be a very, very big part of any school education curricula. So these are some of the points which I feel might benefit this discussion over here from the school's point of view. I must congratulate the forum for having put together this set of wonderful books that was shared by Mr. Kapila with me, which can have to be, of course, which are integrated with different subjects. So you have road safety behavior integrated into languages, into math, into science and social science, which is the ideal way to do it, because you're just teaching it by the way and not as an imposition, not where marks are attached. And I think those are fantastic initiatives. Looking at the size, the length and the breadth and the depth of the challenge, we must not give up, because if we people do not pursue this cause, and every drop here will matter in the long run, and I'm sure we'll get somewhere, because as an educator, I have the never say die attitude, and that I will pause. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you, Meenakshi ji, for a good insight from an educator's point of view and from an educational perspective. I will only say you have provided me a little ground of what I'm going to address later when my turn comes. Okay, now it is our learned professor P.K. Sikdar, who needs really no introduction. He has done so much on the field, and so I would just request Professor Saab to address us.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Can I share my slides, please?
Please, please. The picture speaks 1,000 words.
The screen.
Right.
Where is sharing? I share my screen. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, can you see the slide? Is it visible?
Yes. Yes, just a minute.
Yes, it is visible. It is visible.
Okay, thank you. Well, good afternoon to all my fellow panelists and all the attendees. Well, today my topic is education and campaign as built-in requirement of road development projects. Now, why I have this topic? I want to give you a reason for it. Most developing countries, when they develop road, either by building a new road in completely virgin alignment or even by upgradation, it has been invariably found that the road accidents and fatalities have increased. Now, that's the situation. And reason for it is that as we build these roads, either by upgradation or by developing a new road, it completely changed the character of the road to the people who are living around it. Therefore, a road simply cannot perform the purpose of it, purpose of creating that road, providing safety or safety outcome as it is desired without considering the subsystems which are required to be considered for development simultaneously along with the road. Therefore, road has to be developed with all associated features and components of this globally accepted, tested, and acclaimed concept of safe system approach. So unless all that is provided simultaneously along with the road cannot perform safely, or rather people cannot adopt it as a safe infrastructure. Subsystems which are required normally should be developed along with the development or implementation of the project itself. Globally accepted method, or rather the safe systems approach for road safety management or any network, it is to be achieved by the safe systems approach, which encompasses several things. All of that. That means infrastructure has to be safe. The vehicles using those are also to be safe, as Mr. Arun Lakshman has abundantly pointed out. That education, Meenakshi ji has said what all is required for the people to be really understanding safety or the purpose of their using the road, and the road has to purpose all of that. And that's what is the safe systems approach. Now, safe systems approach in a pictorial terms is said like this. It has to have safe roads, no doubt. Vehicles are to be safe. Drivers are to be safe. That means they have to be alert. They have to be skilled drivers. All that makes, along with the speed arrangement, makes the traffic system, which has been talked about by Mr. Lakshman as well. In addition to that, to this safe systems approach, the understanding of the accidents, the way we need to understand the accidents is important. And for that, we need the data. That means what has gone wrong to create an accident, that must be corrected. Education, emphasizing the culture of safety, that is, of course, a perennial requirement. Entry to the system, both the drivers as well as the vehicles, is very, very important. They have to be safe. Legislation, plenty of them are already there. If some more are required, that also can be there, but that doesn't help much unless the other part of the systems are also there. Political commitment is most important, and that's what Professor Trivedi said, that entire problem is to be looked at as a top-down approach, looking the responsibility, accountability right from the top. And that's where the road safety has quite a bit failed in our system, because there is no responsibility or accountability at the top. It needs 5 things. 5 E's: engineering of roads, engineering of vehicles, education and awareness, enforcement and emergency care. All these 5 E's actually provides this safe systems approach. I would like to show you a special case of new alignment in new road and what we are doing with that. The details of this concept of safe systems approach, it requires all those 5 things which I have just mentioned, in addition to, of course, the institutional setup. In case of a virgin alignment, which is the case in this case, Bundelkhand Expressway is a 300-kilometer long expressway being built on the eastern part of Uttar Pradesh. And this is all the institutional requirements and other subsystems are required to be built simultaneously while the construction is going on. Unless that is done, this will be again a killer road like any other. In case of Bundelkhand Expressway, it is proposed to develop all the associated subsystems simultaneously. And the road safety can surely be managed much better if we have followed the globally accepted safe systems approach. And therefore, ICT being the supervision consultant of that expressway, it has taken this pledge of mission safest expressway. We want to make it safest expressway in the country, which will be opened next year. Now, I would like to take 2 case studies just to show you what is required when we deliver a road. Implementation, as Professor Trivedi has asked for, the correct implementation. And that's what I want to say, that African Development Bank, since last several years, what they have done, they have introduced a strategy of including the education and campaign while taking up the funded projects, whether it is new greenfield project or upgradation project. In any of these, they provide additional component as education and campaign. And I want to show you this example of this project where it was a road in Tanzania. And it was 2 packages. One part is 14.1 kilometer where the existing road was to be made 4-lane. 2-lane road is to be converted to 4-lane. This is upgradation. And construction of Arusha bypass, a 42-kilometer long, a greenfield alignment of a bypass of a town. So these 2 examples are available directly in front of us as an upgradation as well as a construction of a greenfield alignment road. Now, the blue one, the top figure, the blue one is the upgradation, and that's what is shown in the bottom. A part of that between these 2 blue dots, that's what is being upgraded to 4-lane from 2-lane. And this one, the pink alignment shown here in the upper figure, that's the bypass, which is the greenfield alignment. Now, in these 2, what they have done, the task they have given in the TOR, terms of reference of that project, that make the community residents aware that the road safety should be a major community concern. Making them aware this road is not going to be of same character as it used to be. So be aware of this fact. Sensitize the community residents to identify specific road safety problems faced by the community for crossing the road or whatever reasons, as well as their remedial measures. If they have got some suggestions, surely we take it up. Strengthen the local ward, village community organizations, NGOs, CBOs, all of them are to be taken into confidence for doing all these. And then lastly, they say educate community residents and the road users for safe use of the road and actions to be taken in the event of an accident. So these were the tasks given to the consultant to deliver along with the upgradation as well as the new alignment, new construction of the road. Now, what was done? There were 3 cycles of education and campaign during those years, the period of the project. And what was done, general road users were trained and campaigned on the road use, school children for the schools located along the road, pedestrians, cyclists, two-wheeler riders, car drivers, heavy good vehicles, and contractor operatives. That means the contractors are working on that. They also have been trained what will make it difficult for the users of this road subsequently when they make it. So therefore, they themselves should not overlook or put a less importance to any feature of the road while constructing it. So all that was done at a time. Now, this is the road which is 4-lane divided, as you can see in the top. All these figures, all these 4 photographs are for that 4-lane divided roads. And as you can see, initially, when it was a 2-lane road, this is a design drawing. As you can see, there are innumerable side roads penetrating this 2-lane road. Every 100, 200, 300 meters, there is a side road joining. So what has been done in discussion with them, all of that has been closed. Median has been closed except in one location where an U-turn can be made. And also, and these U-turn facilities are created like that, as it has been shown in the top left-hand corner. So this is the way you have to talk to people and find out how to take care of the situation. Otherwise, everywhere, if the people join here and turn right and left, there will be havoc on this 4-lane divided road, which will create a lot of kind of accidents and fatalities. Now, this is the other part of the road, 2-lane paved shoulder, which is the new alignment. This is the Arusha bypass, the greenfield alignment. And what has happened in all these cases, in both these cases, the client is same, 10 roads equivalent of NHAI in our country. And they were first trained in the top left-hand corner. As you can see, they were first trained on road safety. What all is required in the road for safety, they have been taken to the road to show what will work, what will not work. And then, of course, the school, institutions, village, everywhere, the campaign was done abundantly in 3 different cycles to educate all these people or communicate to all these people that the road is never going to be the same again. So please be aware of this problem, behave differently, and what is differently, what is the behavior required for using such road, which the character of which has changed, all that has been given to them or told to them. Now, case study 2, second case study. This is a case study from India. This is World Bank funded project of NHDP, National Highway Development Project. You remember probably the Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, and Kolkata, Delhi, that all 4 arms together is called Golden Quadrilateral. We did the road safety public education campaign for 2 arms, Mumbai, Chennai, which is 1419 kilometers long, and Delhi, Mumbai is 1419 kilometers long, and Mumbai, Chennai is 1290 kilometers long. And these 3 years project we did, and this is what is shown in the figure. Delhi, Mumbai, this road, and Mumbai, Chennai, this is the golden quadrilateral, the red or pink colored quadrilateral. Now in that, as you can see, the project tasks are exactly same as what I have shown you in the earlier case, AFDB's case. Now, it's not that they have copied each other. This is a World Bank project, whereas the other one in Tanzania was a African Development Bank project. But requirement is exactly same, and that's what we did in case of this. This is the Delhi-Mumbai corridor, which is shown in the yellow road. And what we did, we divided into 12 stretches, 1490 kilometers, which are looking to be uniform land use or uniform character in terms of use by the road users. So accordingly, these 1490 divided into 12 stretches, and there were innumerable number of schools. So very large number of schools also were taken. And this was the look of the road immediately after construction. And basically there was big hue and cry. There is a lot of accidents and lot of fatalities taking place after construction of this 4-lane divided carriageway of Golden Quadrilateral. And accordingly, this road, this project was awarded to us for both the arms, Delhi, Mumbai, Mumbai, Chennai. Now, this is the other part of this. As you can see, the condition of this road, people are still not aware of the character of the road. Look at this. This vehicle is in the reverse direction, facing on the other side. I mean, they still treat the road to be as it used to be, a 2-lane undivided road. These people are standing here, showing hand to a coming bus, approaching bus, to stop here right on the road itself. So like that, and people crossing without knowing the speed of this road. 100-kilometer design speed, and people travel even at higher speed. Now, particularly, the total project was delivered through these steps. First, the campaign implementation plan was designed, and then preparation of the training and campaign material, then training of the awareness raisers. Now, this training of awareness raisers was required because we needed these awareness raisers who will do it always. We have the project for a couple of years only, but after we leave, this campaign should continue, or this knowledge transmission or communication should continue. And that's why, along with the campaign, we trained the awareness raisers in different organizations. I'll show you that. In a campaign, coordination, monitoring, and evaluation was done subsequently along with it. Now, these were the steps in which the campaign delivery was done: training, orientation, motivation, awareness raisers, all these were done. Crossing of the road, that event was done in school, announcement through mic, banners, posters, booklets, all these were done, including video film, and whole lot of things were done. Lectures, PowerPoint presentations to various groups, truck drivers, taxi drivers, and a whole lot of the villagers. That way it was done. These were some numbers, and as you can see, very large numbers of things were done during that period. And this probably is not required to be looked into with any interest. But what we did in the schools, we did some safe walking to school. We taught that, demonstrated that how they should walk or cross the road in such a high-speed road. Safe way to cross the road, safe cycling. There were many students coming by bicycle, and they have to be told how to remain safe. And safe transport. Many people are coming in tempo and other such vehicles. So therefore, how to save themselves or remain safe, all that had to be done. So as an example, I have done for this kind of target group, school children. For every target group, there was a program like that. Different activities were done. I have only shown the school children. And here I show you, since we were covering several states, right from Delhi to Rajasthan, to Gujarat, to Maharashtra, to Karnataka, and then Tamil Nadu. So we had to prepare all the material in 5 different languages, because without that you can't reach to them. And posters were also done in the similar way for different languages. And similarly, banners, leaflets, everything was done. And as you can see, we talked and discussed with the panchayats also, and the kind of other institutions, local institutions, policemen, a whole lot of them, schools, colleges, everywhere. All target groups were considered. And at some point in time, we intensified this campaign by even door-to-door campaign, going to almost 50–60% of the houses to see, does it make a difference in their behavior of road use. So I'll show you that as well in a moment. Now, in summary, I would like to say that providing all elements of safe systems approach, where education and campaign is just one element out of all 5, then only together it will provide the results what we are aiming at in terms of reducing the roads accidents and fatalities. Now, it has been seen that education, awareness campaign and training, it enhances the required knowledge and understanding of the safe behavior. But sustainable behavioral shift needs simultaneous enforcement in case of road traffic. Without simultaneous enforcement, although they have learned, they have got 100% knowledge, 100% understanding of the safe behavior. Because when we evaluate them by questionnaire, we find they know everything. But when you observe on the road, you find there is a lot of deficiencies. A significant proportion of the road users do not obey the safe behavior. They don't have the safe behavior. And that is what has been seen, that simply education and campaign will not suffice. And that's what Meenakshi ji also said, that education must be associated with enforcement, and then only it will result in a kind of sustained behavioral change. Well, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sikdar. That was a good example-based, illustration analysis-based importance of education and awareness as part of total road safety. Well, to achieve the goal, we have to begin, and that is education, because that is not only the road user, it also spills to the road designer and the enforcer. So with that, I would request, has Parulji come and joined us by now? Yes, Parulji.
I think there's a problem. She's not been able to join.
All right, then we'll proceed to the next. And that next is now for the question answer session. So may I request whichever questions are there can be put up, so and whosoever panelists they are addressed, they can be answered. Because there was bound to be some questions with such a enlightening address by all the panelists so far. Please.
Dr. Mohan, there was a question to Dr. Trivedi and I put it in the chat box, but Dr. Trivedi had to leave because he has another meeting at 6 o'clock. And the question says maybe someone else also can answer.
Please.
But, however, all these questions pertaining to particular panelists, it will be sent to them through email for obtaining the answers. And ultimately, these answers are also put into the website.
That will be a very practical approach, because then the questions can be formulated, the answers can be formulated, and they are available all as a series. And ultimately, whether it is the panelists today, or it is the attendees, or it is the others, the goal is common: road safety.
Yeah, that's right. There are 3 questions to Professor Trini, 4 questions to Prajapati.
You put up in the email and we'll see.
There is a question to Arunji.
Yes. No, sorry, we are both Aruns. So you are referring to
Arun Lakshmanji.
Yes, please.
This is anonymous. Name is not there. It says that I think professional approach to education also required, as it is more towards mass and media now.
I could not get the question. There is a disturbance in my system.
Okay.
Please repeat.
The question reads like this. Thanks, Arunji. I think professional approach to education also required, as it is more towards mass and media now. That means mass education and media-based education.
Absolutely, yes. He is absolutely right.
So I would say
The
also,
approach has to be professional. Absolutely.
but I'll add one thing to that. It has to be professional, but it has to be so designed so it reaches the advantageous student and the disadvantageous student at the same time.
When we talk about professional approach, this kind of tactics we always follow. We talk in the language what is being understood by the every section of society.
Correct. Correct. I just wanted to remind that.
Thank you. It's a very wonderful observation.
Another question for Mr. Arun Lakshman. Science behind driving should be taught to new learners. Motor training school trainers should be trained properly and it should be mandated. It's from V.S. Joshi, is a trainer of road safety.
Actually, I mean, his question is quite logical also, because number one, I very clearly mentioned in my slides that what is to be taught is very well defined in Rule 31. So all trainees are supposed to undergo that training if they come to a driving school. But now they don't come to a driving school. They learn from their parents, brothers, friends and all. So that kind of knowledge is just missing. Now, as far as train the trainer is concerned, I remember government of Karnataka was taking very good initiative of conducting train the trainer every year. And they were inviting experts in their domain so that trainers can get a good output. I feel it is a very nice suggestion and I am into it. Yes, trainers have to be trained properly. No dispute.
Another anonymous question. It says our highways are not access controlled. Traffic characteristics is mixed type. Significant roadside friction is present. Safety is a major issue. What is your view on the recommendation to impose 70 km/h speed limit on highways unless a desirable favorable condition is created?
I disagree as far as speed is concerned, because when the training and skills are taken care properly, these speeds are nothing. And we have to see that volume of traffic moves smoothly. And people have got this misconception that speed is the ultimate, evil which is causing accidents. No, it is a skill which is not there into the person, and speed mixed with other evil like drink and driving, mobile distraction, some kind of hazard immediately, comes in your front of a vehicle. These are the points. But speed is not the only one which is responsible for accidents. I have my own opinion on that, and I have discussed in various forums this topic. I am not into making 70 kilometers. I think what Mr. Gadkari is doing is quite a reasonable and very commendable job.
I would left to myself wholly agree. Yes.
Okay, there is another question from one Mr. Subhash Nigam. His question is to me only. As per the case studies, is there any data support indicating the sustained education and campaign plan with the community has changed the road user behavior and change has improved the road safety environment on the project corridors? Now, my point here is that these projects are only to deliver this, not to monitor after 1 year or 2 years. So that is the responsibility, and that's why there was training of the road owning agency, how to do it, how to do this monitoring job that was done right at the beginning from the basis of training, and as well as subsequently what is to be done, how to collect data, what kind of comparison evaluation has to be done. All that has been told to them. It is not available that whether it has been done or has it made any change.
Okay, well, More questions, or shall I make a short address?
There is one more question. Even in the
Please.
training schools, they are teaching wrong. Something like double light, hazard lights used for going straight. What is this? I don't know. This is the
That's
question.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That trainers are to be trained properly and certified. And this complete course is available by Ministry of Skill through NSTC and ASDC. And they should attend at least. They should be certified through that ecosystem.
Yeah, that's all. There is no other question to any speakers except Professor Trivedi's questions. I will send it to him.
Thank you. Okay. Now, I would like to address again on today's webinar a short submission, I would call it. No, presentation is only one page. All right, that presentation may be put up on the screen. May I request the technical department to just put up that presentation on the screen.
IT team, please
Yes.
put up that one slide. Yeah.
You see, risk probability perception. I'm sitting here addressing you and I can perceive the temperature which is around me. I can perceive that sun is now setting for the day. But when I go out on the road, whether as a driver or as a passenger or as a road user or standing by the road, there is a total mismatch between actual risk probability and the perceived risk probability. In para 2 above, I point out the basic theory of probability. But in life generally, despite bad driving, bad road user, other wrongs by us, maybe I just run across a road, but it's not every time I run across a road, I will be run over. Yet the probability is very much there. And this probability is what has to be understood as a basic first principle when it comes to road safety and to risk perception. Now, how this matters? Human mind is firstly conscious thinking, then over a period of time, and I'm talking only of road safety today, it moves into subconscious thinking, and then it goes into another part of our brain or human psychology where it becomes a habit, it becomes a reflex action. And inbuilt in our neurosystems at that time is an automatic correct perception and alarm systems. We have it for very many other fields in life which we have grown up with. But somehow the other, for road safety, it needs inculcation of the risk perception and the habit, not the ways of road safety, but the importance of road safety. Because let me tell you, friends, it is self-preservation, the instinct of self-preservation, which is the most efficient enforcer. Self-preservation for us who is using the road, whether as a driver or as otherwise as a road user. But then there is another part. I'm driving a car. It is a very well-equipped car, airbags, seat belts, everything is fine. And then I can take an attitude. All right, if somebody else dies, so what? I'm not intending to injure somebody, but that my driving my fancy car may injure somebody, whether I'm riding a two-wheeler or a poor man's cycle, whether I'll come in the way, I'll injure myself or cause an accident. These are all habit-driven, instinct-driven. And the grounding of these instincts and these habits is what has to be made right from, I would say, early days at school, when we go, whether it is a upmarket school or it is a village school. that basic of road safety has to be inculcated as a habit. Only then and then alone. Otherwise, if it is inculcated as a habit, all the other effort we are doing, the 5 E's, we can implement. But if that habit is missing, if it was not inculcated and grounded at the proper time, then all our other efforts become difficult to implement. So, my friends, while all of us are working on the same goal, I do not wish to repeat, because everything what other speakers have said, I agree. But I thought I'll add this little bit about one small part of education of the young children in risk perception and the importance inculcation of it as a habit. Thank you. As far as I'm concerned, I'll take any questions. The technical team may put this off the screen now. Please. Any questions for me first, and then I proceed. Okay. Today's has been a session which I will call learning for myself. And all the minds who have been collected today for this, for which I must compliment the organizers, Kapila ji and others. Dr. Ganduk Upadhyay ji is there, Professor Sikdar, the other speakers, especially Professor Trivedi, and of course from an educationist point, we had Meenakshi ji. Then from the actual ground level views, we had some interesting observations of Arun ji, and then, as rightly said by all, it is implementation that has to be achieved. We can have another seminar, many seminars, but between this and the next seminar, what will be the implementation that we achieve? Friends, the goal is common. It could be me tomorrow, it could be a loved one of me tomorrow in a road accident. Let us work on how to implement it. We are not short of ideas, and that's why I was really happy to hear Professor Trivedi on the implementation part. So with that, I will say a thank you to the organizers first, Kapila ji, and each one of you, because as I can see, I can feel it is a wealth of knowledge that has come down, collected in today. Only implementation has to be pushed. And before saying bye, I will say that today's seminar and the slides be available on the net or whatever way, so that we can think and work further. Namaskar and thank you all.
Thanks to guest speaker, Professor Trivedi, Dr. Arun Mohan, the able moderator, and all the panelists. They have done wonderfully. Presented contents. Only we missed Ms. Parul Kumar, and if her slides are available, along with all others, we'll put up in the IRF India chapter websites, so that she couldn't make the presentation, but it will be available. It will be available. So I would like to thank all of you, and as it is shown here, the 10th webinar, next webinar, is on the Wednesday, 20th October at 4:30 p.m. again, and this is on enforcement innovations for road safety. What we talked today, the education alone doesn't suffice, enforcement is required. So let us look into this. What kind of innovation can be done in enforcement to make it more effective? And that's the intention in this webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.